When Donald Trump withdrew from the JCPOA, otherwise known as the Iran nuclear agreement, and started saber rattling against Iran and almost bombed them, according to multiple reports, I thought there's no way that the next administration, if it is democratic, is going to be able to get us back into this peace agreement with Iran, because that's effectively what the JCPOA was. It was a peace agreement. Iran agrees to not enrich uranium to a certain extent, and as a result, there's no justification for an invasion or regime change when we get, a bloodthirsty administration that wants to actually do regime change. And, we came close during the Trump years with John Bolton in his ear. But I was pleasantly surprised to learn that Iran was actually willing to come to the table, and the president of Iran actually had called on the incoming Biden administration to re-enter the agreement. So I thought, wow, maybe this is possible. Maybe this can work. Except fast forward to today, and Biden's administration is dragging its feet when it comes to renegotiation of this agreement. And I don't know if Joe Biden is going back on his campaign promise to re-enter the Iran nuclear agreement, or if there's a saboteur in the ranks of the Biden administration who is trying to make peace less possible. I'm talking about Anthony Blinken. And let me just say, before we get into the specifics here, that if the Biden administration fucks this up, then the next Republican administration is definitely not going to re-enter this peace agreement. They're definitely going to continue to escalate and ramp up the tensions, as Trump did. So we have one chance. We can't mess this up, but they're already bungling it. And we got signs that this would be the case when Secretary of State Anthony Blinken emphasized the importance of consulting with Israel before re-entering the Iran nuclear agreement. We don't have to consult with another country about our relationship with a different country that doesn't involve them, especially when that government who we are supposedly going to be consulting with is hell-bent on escalation and regime change. We then learned that Secretary Blinken was fear-mongering about Iran, suggesting that they could be weeks away from having material needed to build a nuclear bomb. And now Newsweek is reporting that Biden's administration has dodged an offer from Iran to discuss their re-entry into the deal. Now, we will listen to the new Secretary of State struggle to articulate a good reason why we're not actually talking with Iran, why we're giving them the cold shoulder when they're literally reaching out to pursue peace.
With regard to Iran, President Biden has been very clear in saying that if Iran comes back into full compliance with its obligations under the JCPOA, the United States would do the same thing. And then we would use that as a platform to build with our allies and partners what we call a longer and stronger agreement, and to deal with a number of other issues that are deeply problematic in the relationship with Iran. But we are a long ways from that point. Iran is out of compliance on a number of fronts, and it would take some time, should it make the decision to do so, for it to come back into compliance, and time for us then to assess whether it was meeting its obligations. So we're not there yet, to say the least. And then with regard to how we would engage this issue if Iran decides to come back into compliance, I can tell you that we will build a strong team of experts, and we will bring to bear different perspectives on the issue. This is something, I would say this across the board, by the way. One of the things that I feel very strongly about is that in any of the issues we're engaged on, in any of the issues that we're tackling, and that our foreign policy has to confront, that we are constantly questioning our own assumptions and premises, that we do not engage in groupthink, that there is as much self-criticism and self-reflection as we get from, appropriately, the outside, whether it's from you or whether it's from people who disagree with the policies we're pursuing. So I think you can expect to see that as we move forward, both with regard potentially to Iran and, for that matter, to just about any other issue we tackle. Thank you.
So, to put it more simply, he's saying that we're not going to talk with Iran without preconditions. We will renegotiate the terms of the JCPOA if and only if they are within compliance of said agreement that we pulled out from. What? We're the ones who withdrew unilaterally from that agreement. We're the ones who broke the deal. We're the ones who weren't compliant with the deal. So isn't that a little bit unreasonable? Like, imagine if Iran said, you know what, we're not talking after you violated the terms of this agreement unless you get rid of all the sanctions. We're not going to talk with you unless there are preconditions. Imagine if they said that. We would be outraged by it. The U.S. government, more specifically, would be outraged. And they would think, how dare you put these conditions on this negotiations? Like, we're the United States. How dare you do that? But Iran is being pretty reasonable here. They're saying, hey, here's an olive branch. Do you want to get back into this agreement, which is mutually beneficial, or do you not? And Biden's administration, at least for now, is saying, you need to do this for me first. Do you want peace or not? Because if you fuck this up, if you don't renegotiate this deal, re-enter the JCPOA, guess what happens? A bloodthirsty neocon is going to get power and actually do what Trump was too afraid to do. Bomb Iran. Start a war with Iran. I mean, this is part of Biden's campaign promise. So I don't know if Anthony Blinken is at odds with Joe Biden and is undermining him. But either way, this is absolutely despicable. Talk to them. Pursue peace. Even if you fail, the mere fact that you're pursuing peace, that in and of itself makes you worthy of applause. Donald Trump was in over his head when it came to negotiations with North Korea. I don't think he had the first clue about Korean politics. I don't think he knew what would actually facilitate long-lasting peace between the North and South of Korea and, North Korea and the United States. But the mere fact that he was talking to them and not trying to, threaten them every other day, that was preferable. That's better. Like, we should be pursuing peace. We should be trying to right the wrongs of the past 4 years, as you claim you wanted to do, Joe Biden. Donald Trump withdrew, and you disagreed with that. So now, why are you doing Donald Trump's bidding by not talking to Iran to form this peace agreement? We violated the deal. We reimposed sanctions after we pledged to not do that, because that was the terms of the deal. So if you can acknowledge that they're not in compliance anymore, then acknowledge that we're also not in compliance. I mean, look, this is all early discussions. Maybe they're just posturing. Either way, it's deeply infuriating, because I did not even expect Iran to want to work with the U.S. again, because it's a hard sell. It's a really hard sell. Like, the hardliners in Iran, they already were against the JCPOA in the first place. And so you're making it a lot more difficult for the moderates to sell this to everyone else in the country. Like, the Iranian people are much more moderate than the government itself. But the moderates within government at Iran, like, you're making their job a lot more difficult. You're making this a harder sell. And if you genuinely want peace, if you want to, put back together the pieces of Obama's legacy that Trump destroyed, this is easy. This is easy. This is a simple thing you can do that the left would be happy with and that would actually be meaningful. But they're botching it. And now that I'm shitting on Joe Biden, I should also take the time to call out the fact that his administration is considering Rahm Emanuel to be the ambassador to China or Japan. And I just don't understand why they can't let this guy go. He covered up the murder of Laquan McDonald. He's a racist. Why do you have to give him some job? Like, I don't understand the relationship here, why you're so attached to him. So, look, I'll leave that there. I don't know why Democrats have such a hard-on for Rahm Emanuel, and I don't know why this is so difficult for Joe Biden's administration. Trump undid your legacy. Do you want to repair what was broken? Or do you want to, make it easier for some neocon who comes to power to invade Iran? I don't know, but either way, I don't like it. I don't like what I'm seeing. This is bad. And if it doesn't change, then we actually need to form an anti-war movement in the country. I mean, we need that regardless. But the reason why both parties are so hawkish is because there's zero pressure. I mean, part of it is capitalist forces, all right, as well. Obviously, the defense industry, the military-industrial complex. But We have to have some sort of leverage. And unless there's like a real movement to stop wars in this country, like this is going to be the status quo. It's not going to change, regardless if you elect Democrats or Republicans. So, if he doesn't actually move towards peace, it's early, but if he doesn't act, and if we continue to see what looks to be sabotage by Secretary Blinken, then there needs to be pressure on Biden's administration. Absolutely, without question. War with Iran is not even on the table at all. It should never be.
You know the thing. You're getting nervous, man.